If you've ever heard the name Aokigahara, you've probably heard the stories. People claim compasses stop working, voices echo through the trees, and those who wander too far sometimes lose all sense of direction. Some say the forest is haunted. Others believe fear and isolation are enough to make anyone imagine impossible things. But what you're about to hear isn't presented as proof of the supernatural. It's a fictional horror story inspired by the real history, landscape, and mysteries surrounding Japan's infamous forest. Today, we enter one of the world's most unsettling places, Aokigahara. This is Tales of the Dark, the last search through Aokigahara on the morning of October 18, 2024. The sky above Mount Fuji was perfectly clear. Tourists gathered near viewing platforms, taking photographs of the snow-covered peak just a few miles away. The entrance to Aokigahara Forest stood in complete silence. The sunlight barely reached the forest floor. Towering trees grew so densely together that even a gentle breeze struggled to move their branches. The deeper the forest stretched, the quieter it became. It wasn't the kind of silence people found peaceful. It was the kind that made you instinctively lower your voice, as though something was listening. At exactly 8:15 that morning, a small volunteer search and rescue team prepared to enter the forest. Their mission seemed straightforward. The previous evening, a tourist from Tokyo had contacted local authorities after hearing someone repeatedly calling for help while hiking near an unofficial trail. He searched for nearly 20 minutes. He never found anyone. Instead, the voice seemed to move farther away every time he followed it. The report wasn't enough to launch a large-scale emergency response, but because daylight conditions were good, a volunteer team agreed to investigate. 5 people entered the forest. Their team leader was 42-year-old Kenji Sato, a veteran volunteer who had participated in dozens of wilderness searches. Beside him walked Yuki Tanaka, a paramedic with years of mountain rescue experience. The youngest member was Haruto Mori, 26 years old, carrying body cameras, GPS equipment, and emergency supplies. Joining them were Daichi Kuroda, responsible for communications, and Akira Fujimoto, a former hiking guide who knew the forest better than anyone else on the team. Before leaving the parking area, Akira addressed everyone. "If anyone becomes separated," he said calmly, "don't chase voices." The group exchanged puzzled looks. Akira continued, "Sound behaves differently in this forest. The lava beneath the ground and the dense trees can make voices seem much closer or much farther away than they really are." Everyone nodded. It was practical advice, nothing more. At exactly 8:43 a.m., they stepped beneath the trees. The change was immediate. Outside the forest, birds filled the morning air. Inside, almost nothing, only their footsteps broke the silence. Crunch, crunch, crunch. The volcanic ground beneath them felt uneven. Sharp black lava rocks hid beneath thick layers of moss. Ancient tree roots twisted across the trail like giant snakes. Haruto adjusted the body camera attached to his backpack. "This place doesn't even look real." Nobody answered. Within 30 minutes, they reached the area described by the tourist. Kenji called out loudly, "Search and rescue." Only echoes answered. The team spread into pairs, remaining within sight of one another. For nearly 2 hours they searched. Nothing, no footprints, no discarded equipment, no sign anyone had recently been there. Around 11 o'clock, Daichi stopped walking. There, everyone looked. Half hidden beneath fallen leaves sat a faded blue backpack. It looked old, weathered, but not abandoned for years. Kenji carefully opened it. Inside were bottled water, a flashlight, a first aid kit, and a small notebook. The pages had become damp from humidity. Most were unreadable, except the final entry, written in shaky handwriting. It read, "If you hear someone calling your name, don't answer." Haruto forced a nervous laugh, someone's idea of a joke. No one else laughed. Kenji zipped the backpack closed. "We'll take it back." They continued deeper into the forest. By midday, the sunlight had almost disappeared. The canopy above blocked nearly everything. It felt closer to evening than afternoon. Akira checked his compass. The needle spun slowly before settling, then, without warning, it began rotating again. Haruto frowned. Battery issue. Akira shook his head. It's magnetic rock. He pointed toward the ground. This forest sits on ancient lava flows. They can interfere with navigation equipment in certain places. The explanation made sense, yet it didn't make anyone feel better. An hour later, Yuki spotted something hanging from a branch, bright yellow ribbon, fresh. Someone had tied it around the tree. Then another ribbon appeared, then another. They stretched deeper into the forest like breadcrumbs. Haruto smiled. Perfect. Somebody marked their path. Akira's expression didn't change. No. What do you mean? Search teams here usually use tape exactly like this. Haruto nodded. So, Akira looked farther into the trees. I don't recognize these markings. Silence settled over the group. Kenji made the decision. We follow them. The ribbons wound through increasingly dense forest. The terrain became rough, steeper, harder to navigate. Every few hundred feet another strip of yellow tape appeared, until they stopped. The final ribbon hung from a crooked pine tree. Beyond it, nothing, no footprints, no equipment, no trail. Just endless trees. Daichi slowly turned in a circle. This doesn't make sense. Kenji agreed. Let's spread out 50 feet. The team searched carefully. Minutes passed. Then Haruto called out, I found something. Everyone hurried toward him. Resting against the base of a tree was a digital video camera, covered in dirt. One corner cracked, but intact. Haruto pressed the power button. Nothing. Dead battery. Kenji carefully placed it inside an evidence bag. If we can recover the files, he said, maybe we'll find out who it belongs to. By now, the forest felt different, heavier. Nobody spoke unless necessary. Even Akira, normally the calmest member of the team, kept glancing over his shoulder. Around 3:30 p.m., the first voice came. It was faint, barely audible. Somewhere ahead, help. Everyone stopped. The word echoed softly through the trees. Haruto looked toward Kenji. You heard that right? Kenji nodded. The voice came again. Please. Yuki immediately called back. This is search and rescue. Keep talking. Silence, then another call. Farther away now. Help. Daichi checked his GPS. It's moving. What? The voice. Kenji frowned. Voices don't move, but this one did. Every time they took a few steps, the cry seemed farther away, as though whoever was calling for help stayed just beyond sight. For nearly 15 minutes they followed it, never getting closer, never seeing anyone. Eventually the voice stopped. The forest became silent once more. Nobody knew what to say. Kenji finally made the decision to return before darkness. They turned around, only to discover something impossible. The yellow ribbons were gone, every single one. Haruto stared into the trees. They were right here. No one argued because they all remembered seeing them. Yet now, every branch stood empty. The team hurried back toward what they believed was the main trail. The light continued fading. Shadows stretched across the forest floor. Then, Haruto suddenly stopped walking. His face had gone completely pale. Kenji looked back. What is it? Haruto didn't answer. He slowly raised one trembling hand, pointing into the darkness between the trees. There, everyone turned. Nothing, only trees, only shadows. Haruto swallowed hard. What? I thought someone was standing there. Kenji scanned the forest with his flashlight. Nothing. Just as the team prepared to continue walking, Daichi's radio crackled to life. Static filled the speaker. Then a calm voice emerged, clear enough that everyone heard it, not asking for help, not screaming, simply whispering one sentence: Haruto. The young volunteer froze, because that wasn't the terrifying part. The terrifying part was that nobody on the team had spoken, and the voice had just called him by name. Haruto stood frozen. The radio had gone silent again. Every member of the search team stared at him. No one spoke for several seconds. Finally, Kenji reached for the radio clipped to Daichi's vest. Command, this is Search Team 3, come in. Only static answered. Daichi switched frequencies, nothing. He checked the battery, full charge. The radio itself wasn't broken. Whatever had spoken hadn't come from headquarters. Haruto tried forcing a smile. It was probably interference. Nobody believed him because the voice hadn't sounded distorted. It had sounded calm, clear, human. More importantly, it had known his name. Kenji looked toward the darkening forest. "We're leaving." No one argued. The team turned around and began walking back toward the route they had entered from earlier that morning. The problem appeared almost immediately. Nothing looked familiar. The massive pine trees surrounded them from every direction. Ancient roots twisted across the ground like giant veins. Every section of the forest looked identical. Even Akira, the man who knew Aokigahara better than anyone, stopped walking. "This isn't right." Kenji frowned. "What do you mean?" Akira slowly turned in a circle. "We should have reached the old lava ridge by now. Instead, there was only more forest." Daichi checked the GPS. The screen flashed. Their location marker jumped wildly across the map before freezing, then disappearing completely. "It's gone." "What?" "The GPS lost our position." Kenji pulled out his own device. Exactly the same. 2 GPS units, both useless. Akira remained calm. "We'll use trail markers." He reached into his backpack and removed a roll of bright orange survey tape. Every few minutes he tied another strip around a tree. The team continued walking. For nearly 40 minutes, everything seemed normal until Haruto looked behind them. His face turned pale again. The ribbon, Akira followed his gaze. The bright orange tape tied only moments earlier was gone. Every strip, every single one. Only bare branches remained. Nobody had enough time to remove them. No one had even walked behind the group. The forest swallowed the silence. Then, another sound echoed through the trees. Knock. Everyone froze. A single wooden knock, like someone striking a tree with a stick. Several seconds later, another knock answered, farther away, then another, then another. The sound spread through the forest, one after another, slow, deliberate, moving around them. Yuki looked toward Akira. "What animal makes that sound?" Akira didn't answer immediately. Instead, he quietly said, "It isn't an animal." The knocking continued for nearly 5 minutes. Then, just as suddenly as it had started, it stopped. The silence felt even heavier than before. By now, daylight had begun disappearing beneath the dense canopy. Kenji checked his watch. Nearly 6 o'clock. They should have been back at the trailhead hours ago. Instead, they still hadn't found a single recognizable landmark. The atmosphere changed again when Yuki suddenly pointed toward the ground. Fresh footprints, human, one set, heading deeper into the forest. Kenji crouched beside them. They're recent. Haruto looked around nervously. So whoever made them could still be close. Kenji nodded. Against his better judgment, he decided to follow them if someone truly needed help. They couldn't simply walk away. The footprints continued for nearly half a mile, then ended beside a clearing. In the center stood 3 small tents, a campsite fresh, a lantern hung from a tree branch, a pot of food rested over cold ashes, sleeping bags remained inside the tents, backpacks leaned against logs. It looked as though the campers had stepped away only moments earlier, but there was nobody. Yuki called out, "Search and rescue." Nothing. Kenji carefully entered the first tent, empty. The second, empty. The third, also empty. Yet inside the final tent, Haruto found something unexpected. A portable battery pack, still charged. He immediately remembered the damaged camera they had recovered earlier. "Try it." Within seconds, the battery powered the camera. The screen flickered to life. Everyone gathered around. The recording began. A date appeared, 3 years earlier. The footage showed another search team walking through the same forest. 5 members, almost the same number as their own group. The camera operator laughed while filming. Everything looked normal. Then the recording jumped forward. The team had become visibly nervous. One of them whispered, "Can you hear that?" A distant voice echoed through the trees, someone crying for help. The footage shook as they began walking faster. Minutes later, one of the rescuers suddenly stopped. He turned toward the camera. His face had gone completely white. "Who's standing behind us?" The camera operator spun around. Nothing. The recording continued. The search team hurried through the trees. Their breathing became frantic. The voice calling for help grew louder, closer. Then, without warning, every member of the team started running. Branches whipped across the camera lens. Someone screamed. The image shook violently. The final frame froze for less than a second. Then the recording ended. Nobody spoke. Haruto replayed the last second frame by frame. His hands began shaking. There, he enlarged the image. Standing between two trees, partially hidden in darkness, was a person. Completely motionless, wearing white clothing, watching the search team run. Kenji stared at the screen. The figure hadn't been chasing them, hadn't moved, simply watching. The silence inside the campsite became unbearable. Then Daichi slowly looked toward the surrounding forest. "We need to leave." No one disagreed. They packed the recovered camera and hurried away from the abandoned campsite. Darkness arrived much faster than expected. Flashlights became their only source of light. For nearly an hour they walked without speaking. Then Haruto realized something. Yuki wasn't beside him anymore. He stopped. "Where's Yuki?" Everyone froze. The paramedic had vanished. Only 4 people remained. "Yuki," Kenji shouted. No answer. The team spread out. Flashlights swept across the trees. Nothing. Minutes passed. Then, a voice echoed through the darkness. "I'm over here." The sound came from somewhere ahead. The 4 men ran toward it. Moments later, they found Yuki standing alone between the trees. She looked confused. "What happened?" Kenji grabbed her shoulders. "Where did you go?" She frowned. "What do you mean, you disappeared?" Yuki laughed nervously. "I was right behind you." Haruto shook his head. "No, you've been missing for almost 15 minutes. The smile vanished from Yuki's face. "That's impossible." She held up her watch. Only 30 seconds had passed before anyone could respond. Daichi remembered the body cameras. "We've been recording all day." Back at the trailhead, they could review everything, see exactly what had happened. It was the only explanation any of them had left. Hours later, well after nightfall, the exhausted team finally reached the forest entrance. None of them could explain how. The route back felt completely unfamiliar, yet somehow they had escaped. Police officers and local rangers immediately met them after giving a brief report. The team sat together inside the command trailer. Haruto connected his body camera to a laptop. The footage began playing. Everyone watched silently. Hours of ordinary search footage passed. Then, they reached the moment Yuki disappeared. The video clearly showed all 5 members walking together without warning. Yuki simply wasn't there anymore. No one noticed. The footage continued for nearly 15 minutes. The team kept walking. Only 4 people. Then, the camera turned. Yuki suddenly appeared ahead of them, exactly as she remembered. As if she had never been gone. No one could explain it, but that wasn't the worst part. Daichi paused the footage, slowly rewinding several seconds. There, hidden behind the team, standing perfectly still between 2 trees, was the same figure in white, watching them. It appeared only for a moment, then vanished before anyone on camera turned around. Haruto leaned closer to the screen. His heartbeat quickened because he realized something horrifying. The figure wasn't looking at the group, it was looking directly at him. No one spoke. The command trailer had become completely silent. Haruto stared at the paused frame on the laptop. The figure dressed in white stood only 20 feet behind him. Its face remained hidden behind the shadows of the trees. No one on the team remembered seeing anyone, not a single person. Kenji slowly closed the laptop. "I don't want anyone talking about this until we've reviewed all the footage." The others nodded. No one argued. That night none of them slept. Every time Haruto closed his eyes, he saw the motionless figure standing behind him, watching, waiting. The following morning, local authorities searched the area where the abandoned campsite had been found. The search lasted nearly 6 hours. Nothing was there. No tents, no campfire. No backpacks, no footprints, not even the yellow ribbons the team had followed. It was as though the campsite had never existed. The officers assumed the volunteers had become disoriented. Perhaps they had mistaken another location for the one shown on the camera. But the explanation didn't account for the recovered backpack, or the damaged video camera, or the strange recording stored inside it. Those items were real. They were sitting inside an evidence locker. Kenji couldn't let it go. He requested permission for one final search. This time the team would remain on marked trails. No unnecessary risks, no chasing voices, just one attempt to locate the place where they had recovered the camera. After several hours of discussion, permission was granted. 2 days later, the same 5 volunteers returned to Aokigahara. The weather was colder, the sky remained overcast. A light mist drifted between the trees. Before entering the forest, Kenji gathered everyone together. If anyone hears a voice, he said, ignore it. If anyone sees someone in the trees, tell the group immediately. And whatever happens, nobody walks alone. Every member agreed. At 9:10 a.m., they entered the forest once again. This time they remained connected by bright safety rope, ensuring nobody could become separated. For the first hour, everything went exactly as planned.